Now that brings me back. That introduction is something you just cannot forget. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was originally released in the arcades sometime in 1989, and it's based off the original TMNT TV series from 1987. And, you know, there have been many different ports over the years, but, I mean, I think we can all agree that the most famous was the 1990 NES port, which I believe was called TMNT 2, the arcade game. What you're seeing right here is the actual PCB ripped straight from a 4-player deluxe model arcade cabinet. And I'm using my new SuperGun that was made by Jamma Nation X in order to capture this superb footage. My gameplay isn't that superb though. Speaking of gameplay, it's absolutely amazing, but super simple, sort of like many of the games from back in the day. You've got an 8-way directional joystick, so you can move around in 8 directions. You've got 2 action buttons, one for jumping and one for attacking, and that's about all she wrote. If you press both buttons together at the same time, you can perform a cool little special attack, but there's no meters or anything like that, it's just one simple move. But pulling it off requires a little bit of practice because you sort of leave yourself open to attack for just a split second, but that can be more than enough to get your butt handed to you. Like I said, this version is based off the 4-player deluxe arcade cabinet, but there was another version and it was a 2-player version, and I used to play that one at a local pizzeria around town. The 4-player version is the one that I have the most vivid memories of. When you have 4 buddies playing through the game, it's an absolute, just a blast. And it makes the gameplay even more interesting too, because not only can you defend one another, but you can actually use your teammates for offensive attacks. Unfortunately, there was no one home when I was recording the footage, so I'm just left as good old Leonardo all by my lonesome. The bulk of the game features the foot soldiers as your main enemy, but these aren't just the regular foot soldiers, these are actually robots. And you can always tell what weapon the foot soldier is going to have based on the color of the foot soldier. Now, I'm not going to go into all the different types, but there's quite a few of them actually. There's also some Mausers and a few other enemies from the cartoon, but it's the boss battles that I really enjoyed. Not only do you have Rocksteady, Bebop, Baxter, Stockman, Krang, Shredder, there's actually a couple others, and I don't want to give them all away, but basically the main villains from the cartoon are featured in the game, and I really enjoyed that. The other thing that's really cool with this game is that it's not too long, it's not too short, it's broken up into 5 scenes, and it begins with April O'Neil's Channel 6 News building set ablaze. The graphics for its time were breathtaking. The animation, especially in that Stage 1 Channel 6 News building, it's awesome. You see the fire, it's got like a little bit of movement to it. The animations were spectacular for back in the day. Yeah, it's true that the turtles themselves were a little bit on the bright side, a little lighter green color than they were depicted in the cartoon. But you know what? Who cares? It just, everything else looks amazing. And like I say, the animations were just breathtaking. And the sounds, damn, man, the soundtrack to this game is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I mean, when the game was ported over to the NES did, you know, the best it could, but it was just, couldn't hold a candle to this version. This is the ultimate version as far as I'm concerned. And I know it's been released on Xbox Live, and there have been other ports here and there, but in my opinion, this is the best way to experience Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because this is the real arcade game. This is the real deal. Now, normally I would end off right there, telling you just how awesome it is, but this is an arcade game, and that means it is extremely difficult to find, or maybe you'll be the luckiest person in the world and be able to pick one up for $10 somewhere. So instead of saying, oh, the game's amazing, go out and race out and buy it, which with all my arcade reviews, I'm not going to do that because finding these games is virtually impossible today. So if you can find it, by all means go for it, but otherwise you're going to have to settle for a port or emulation. So instead, I want to talk about just a couple of memories I have from this particular game. And it's funny, I actually remember when this was new back in 1989. We had a deluxe model at our local arcade near my school, and a couple of buddies of mine used to go out virtually every day to play the game. And it was so funny because when I booted up this PCB and I watched that just super brief intro, it instantly brought me back to that, time period of my life. And I vividly remember getting crushed by Krang and Shredder and most of the other bosses because it's just so damn hard. But, I also remember just how awesome it was when we finally completed the game. And all my buddies were basically like high-fived one another. And it's just one of those games that just really made me fall in love with co-op games. And to this very day, that is still to me, the best way of experiencing multiplayer games. I'm not too much into this whole online deathmatch type stuff, the competitive scene, although I do like fighting games. But this is one of the games that really caused me to take notice of co-op, and I mean, there's only been one or two other arcade games that really match this feeling. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the arcades. And I strongly recommend you check the game out any way you possibly can.
Do